Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning.
Welcome to the Shaman's View.
Yes.
And we have a good view today.
uh,
Shaman's View is nature's view.
and
I'm Ray Christ.
I'm Nina Christ, and we are sharing the Shaman's View. We're going to share about the luminous field today. I'm going to share about the energy body of the human being, and we'll share a little bit also about the unified field and the relationship between the luminous field and the unified field.
Okay, that sounds really good.
And just a quick, truly introduction.
We'll share about everything, in other words. Shaman's View is an idea of sharing with everyone here how shamans view the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think that our work is to demystify it and disambiguate different things that I think are really ambiguous for most people, or were for me before I started apprenticing with the shamans over 16 years ago. Through my studies in yoga and Tai Chi and in shamanism, it's really clear that I've discovered that we see through our practices that all three of these ancient sciences are the original sciences that study the human being and reality. They all start, like Taoism, from the idea of yin and yang, right? From the sun and the earth, the two opposites, the unseen world and the seen world, the spirit world and our everyday life world. All these interact, and through our studies, one of the things that I feel understand is, like, especially in my youth, I was looking at this as all metaphysics and mysterious and intriguing. It's beautiful and intriguing, but for now it's not. I don't have a sense that is metaphysical, but rather quite physical and real. So what the yogis tell us, like the shamans and the Taoists, is that in essence, what governs our emotions are our internal organs and our meridians. And when we go to an acupuncturist, they will tap into 14 essential meridians. When you go into the scriptures of yoga, you're going to see that they talk about 72,000 channels of the body. And they too, of course, focus on 14, the most essential. And when you go to the shamans of Peru, they talk to you about the rivers of life within. As the shamans noticed that where the sacred river Urubamba moved with more flow, there was more life there. There was more plants. There was more animals would be attracted to. They also realized that the flow of energy in the body is what brings abundance of being to the body itself, to life itself. So I'm just going to say for a moment that one of the things that we see in physics, in classical physics, one of the things that Einstein said is that wherever there's an electric current, there is a magnetic field. And this is where the science of all these three ancient sciences, the science of these three ancient arts, talk about this. So there is an electric current in the body, life force itself. We call it prana in yoga. We call it chi in Chinese medicine, what we call life itself in the shamanic world. This electricity that runs in our body creates a magnetic field around us. This magnetic field is what we call the aura, right? Or the luminous field. This magnetic field is the first impression everyone has of you. Or take a moment and think of someone that you've met. When you look back, you may think about their face, what they were wearing, their clothes, but what you're really thinking / feeling is that impression they left on you. And that impression that we exchange with one another is essentially this magnetic information. Through my own luminous field, through my magnetic field, I perceive Nina's magnetic field. I love Nina's magnetic field. And the essence of this is that there is a blueprint that we have within us. If I receive a traumatic experience, that is embedded in my body. If I feel something hurt me, it becomes a cellular memory, and it comes and blocks or hinders the pathway, as you say, of a meridian. Imagine like a pebble in a small little waterway and a trickleway. You put a pebble, and as the water comes through it, it has to move around that. It creates a little bit of a friction. It creates a little bit of a disturbance in that field, in the electricity. As that electricity is disturbed or hindered slightly, it will usually create, as that block is there, usually create a puddle of more energy around it. The electricity will start gathering around it. As the electricity gathers and is blocked in the meridian, that blueprint is reflected in the luminous field. The luminous field will be hindered, or will be, if you want, skewed in that place. This is the beginning of all this ease, Chinese medicine tells us. If there's a block and there's electricity coming into some place and it's staying there, and it's puddling and it becomes too much, what happens is that electricity begins to create heat in one place. That's what we call an inflammation. If inflammation stays for too long in a place, that will actually cook the cells. It will actually create the environment to create a tumor or a cancer or whatever else. If we have it, that means that we're inhibited by that. It inhabits us. It comes and lives with us. Yogis and shamans and Taoists gives us ways to move these out. I love psychotherapy. I think there are especially some specific psychotherapists and Jungian and just like some individuals that are just magnificent in what they do. But an overarching view of this, what yogis and shamans and martial artists or Taoists, acupuncturists say is like, we need to move the trauma out of the body. If we move the trauma out of the body, then there is that hindrance of electricity isn't there anymore. We're not held back by it. We're not creating that impression on others when they meet us. Yoga has created a series of 8 different categories of how to approach trauma. The most known to all of us is asana. And here in asana, and the practice and the postures of yoga, they give us specific postures. When we come into warrior 2, we're opening the kidney meridian, we're releasing fear from the body. We're opening the triple heater, and we're bringing in balance to all of the body. And each posture, we're clearing out 1 or 2 or a set of meridians. The same with Tai Chi, right? The 8 treasures going through this whole practice. We clear out all the meridians of the body. And the goal, in essence, is if we have trauma, as the shamans call it, we are the wounded healers. Something that happened to us is a experience that can give us more depth to our humanity. We're wounded healers. Everything that happened to me is what gives me depth, what gives me essence, what can help me cultivate discernment, what can help me cultivate compassion. If I am in the trauma, I am living in defense, because any person or people or circumstances around me may pose threat of that trauma repeating itself. So the essence is, when I heal the trauma, it becomes my depth and my power. And when I heal it on the physical level, I am once again able, like this bird, to rejoice in life. I am once again able to beam out an expansive and symmetric luminous field. And just to touch upon our reality around us, that unified field, Einstein has talked about this and referred to it. These 2 forces, great forces we know around us, the gravity and the magnetic field of the planet, interact and create what is called the unified field. Like when you see iron filings on a piece of paper with a magnet under it, you'll see they create this shape, same shape of the luminous field, of any magnetic field. That shape has, you'll see the iron filings moving in different directions and different intensities and qualities around it. And in that same way, the unified field is not the same everywhere. Where I walk around me is not the same. Each direction has a different force behind it, and pull and quality. And thus, and the idea is that when I create a symmetric and expansive luminous field, I am able to walk in the unified field and catch on to the synchronistic energy lines. Life begins to be, I don't want to say necessarily easier, but life begins to become synchronistic. We're thinking, planning of something, and things fall in place. And in the meantime, in the inside, while we're not holding that trauma, what happens is that when things don't work, they're simply signifying to us, it's like, this method doesn't work. It's making me think I'm going to use this method. Where when I hold trauma, something doesn't work, I'm triggered, and I'm more likely to say, oh, it's me again, poor me, I'm not making it, I'll never make it, I.
And I would love to chime in there as Ray's sharing all of this. He's talking about the unmanifest moving into the manifest, and I find the sun's coming out. I could feel like we're getting all this bright luminous light,
Beautiful chi, prana.
which is beautiful here in Costa Rica. As we're moving in this, in this space of the luminous field, and we have these amazing practices. It's so important to know when it's time to go and seek support from an acupuncturist, from a therapist, from a friend, from someone else. And when we know, when we have that discernment that we need to reach out to an ally, to a witness, to someone to support us, it's really important to know and have that discernment. And that discernment comes from leaning into these practices of yoga, of Tai Chi, of this shamanism, where we can really start to understand the unmanifest, the energy flowing in the body. And this is something that Christ talked about, the living waters within. This is something that has been spoken of and throughout all cultures, of how to open the body. Because as Ray said, when there's that samskara, it's like, oh, I've done it again, or oh, me. And what's happening is we get that energy blocking the flow of the living waters. And if they're not flowing, then they're contracted. And if they're contracted, then we start to have that tension, that friction, that heat that Ray was just sharing about. And then we end up forming a contract. And these are the concepts that we talk about in our training, where, and I loved how you said this. And as we launched the training last weekend, just starting to feel into people, of feeling this, like, shamanism is such a distance concept.
It's so ambiguous.
It's so ambiguous to so many. And that's where we're here, as our intention is to be bridges between this natural way of being that is all of our birthright. Every single one of us is a shaman. Maybe we aren't accessing our healing. Maybe we aren't accessing our true knowing. Maybe life has put up some sort of safeguards to try to keep us protected from the truth. Whatever it is for each individual, for us to share these universal concepts that are shared throughout all the cultures in the world. And if you look deeply and you start to listen, you start to see, and I like the way Ray's son Jason has put it, is like, it's like different fonts. There are these different fonts throughout the cultures, different language, different vocabulary, saying the same thing. And when you hear a truth, you feel it in your soul. Truth is truth. And that doesn't, there are no borders that can separate truth from truth. And that's where we come into this, the feeling of the luminous field. What part of you is expansive? What part of you is feeling that expansion and ability to reach out and experience all of life? And what part of you is contracted? What part of you is holding back? What part of you is in the shadows of your luminous bright light, right? And that's the gift. Hello. Truth is truth. And that is the gift of these practices, so that each day we can open the rivers within. Each day we can feel the life force of the waters flowing through the body. And as we connect with the practices and awaken our all of our potential, because any contraction is just limiting our potential. And really what we aim to do in our daily lives, Ray and I, is to live our optimal state of being. And I get
the training is what we're sharing, all the tools that are basically a practice. It's like taking care of your garden, taking care of your garden, and really making sure that you're removing debris, that you're watering, that there's movement of energy and air is happening. Plenty of sunlight coming in. It's perfect. That is the essence of moving prana and moving chi. The life, when you click into living shamanically, yogically, or Taoistically, you go with the flow of life. Yes. Life begins to guide you. We step out of this place of being a victim or even being a victor, but rather you become a navigator. Mm-hmm. You navigate life and you receive the gifts of life as they come along and the signs of which direction to move through.
And I think as you're saying that, I feel like coming into this simple truth of a conversation Ray and I have been having, as if we're either living in the flow or we're living in a state of contraction. and really feeling that. Thank you guys for your love. It's so sweet to, yes. Is there anything we can do other than live by example for people who are suffering? Starting to see so many people I love all contracted up. I'm like, anyone else? I'm like raising my hand. It went off screen. Anyone else feeling that?
I think what we do is we dive deeper into our practice.
Yeah.
We dive into a practice. We bring the focus back to ourself, not in a self-centered way, but in an essential way that there is this person, that is really close to you, and that if you lean in with affection and love and constancy, you can create enough space around you to allow for any contractions to be undone, to any knots to be unknotted. And what happens is that if we each individually paths and these ways, then we're liberating humanity, because we are humanity. We are all these other people.
Yeah. And that's
and
kind
I
of
think
the
that's
big
the
aha.
big focus. And I think that I don't know if KB is with us in the training. I think that that's a really good way to do is dive into the training, tell people about the training, dive into training of what truly is the human nature.
Yes.
Greeks talked about know thyself. Socrates said, know thyself and you shall know the secrets of the universe, all the gods in the whole universe. And the essence of what he's referring to is the essence of what these three arts study, approaching life and understanding what we are. Know thyself means know what you are. So when we begin to turn in and look at the mechanisms of trauma, we begin to understand the mechanisms of interactions of people, we begin to see, we rise further and further above, and we acquire discernment. That's the first house the shaman lives in, discernment. And where things don't become that personal, and where instead of walking around in defense or in any sort of need, we're walking around in love beaming outward. And that love itself is like, as you move, it opens the path. As you move with love beaming outward, things become apparent where you need to go or not, where you may not want to go or not. All those things become apparent. Who's the friend and who might not be?
Yeah.
Who's the one that's going to support you? Who's going to pull you down? And lovingly, you move from towards a place where you're going to be supported, and away from the place you're not going to be supported.
Yes. Know thyself. Know that you have a luminous field, and know that you are the one that has the ability to allow that luminous field to be symmetrical and expansive. And hey, Kim, it's Kim. She's in the training.
Oh yeah, hey Kim, KB.
Thank you so much. We'll be back on live next week.
No one will be left behind, and I don't want to be leaving behind this last message. No one is left behind. We move forward. And truth is, we don't look back. We don't look back because everyone who is ready to come comes. The Tao says everything unequal always. So it used to be like 20 years ago, I wasn't in the space, I wasn't in the moment, and there was so many others that were already there, right? But I found my way, and there's others 20 years ahead of me still now, right? That will eventually, like, there's an awakening that is gradual, and again, the more we work on ourselves, the more we release contractions, the more we are a light of love beaming outward. And everyone's mirror neurons wants to be that. Everyone mirror neurons wants to follow and be there next to you. So we let go of worry, essentially. We let go of worry, because worry is a contraction by itself. And we become optimistic, and we keep on living the life of offering love and compassion and beaming love outward.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us for our Shaman's View. It's so nice to connect on Saturday mornings.
Thank you all. Looking forward to see all of you who are in the training there, and all of you who are not. Check it out. You can still join us.
We'd love to have you with us. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful Saturday, and we'll see you next weekend for the Shaman's View.